Listen, if you ever had the chance to look at a part of your life and really see it from the outside looking in, like really see it from a totally unique from the outside perspective, like how would you feel? You know, what part of your life would it be? Would it be something that is, like an everyday situation that maybe, brought excitement or changed up your life in some way? Or is it part of a greater story? Something that's really, just change the way that you are, brought something or someone into your life in a big, powerful way. What would it be? Because I got to experience that with playback theater. It's something that I've learned a lot about. And I went to see a playback performance. If you don't know what playback theater is, it's like this approach to improvisational theater where they act out stories from the audience, just completely on the spot without any preparation, and they just act it out. And they get someone to come up and they share their story and they talk about it, and then just on the spot, the performers come up with a way to bring it to life, and you really get to see it in front of you. And seeing that performance just was such a beautiful experience, just because you see other people's stories come to life. And sometimes these are kind of everyday stories, or sometimes these are just epic, life-changing stories, and sometimes they come to life in a way that is, really, quite literal, and sometimes it's very poetic and it's very like symbolic, and it's like, it's like all of these things are becoming so much more abstract. But what was really cool about it is that seeing these stories come to life, and then you see your story come to life, like you get to see that story from a totally different perspective. You get to see that story consider that situation in your life from a totally different view, right? And how often do we get to do that? I think that's one of the great, struggles in life, is we don't get to kind of reflect on our experience. We don't get to see things really as they are. Because sometimes it's such a powerful thing, because it gives you clarity on what happened. It places your story within the kind of the greater fabric of stories of your life. And that really fascinates me. Why? Because it's a crucial part of our healing from trauma. And by the way, if you don't know me, my name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I'm a trauma survivor. I'm the host of the Simplify Cancer podcast and Power to Be Happy podcast, where I share my journey of healing from trauma. I'm also a proud author of Finding Hope in Times of Uncertainty, a guide to thriving and in the challenging world of today. And for me, hope is inevitably tied to not only looking to outside and things that are, might be happening in the world, or things change that we want to make, but it's also about looking deep within. It's also about understanding what is right for you. How does a story that's happened in your life fit in with the rest of your experience? And for me, I got to really just be immersed in that without the playback theater, first and foremost, but through the experience of meeting a trauma survivor. A survivor like me, a survivor of child sexual abuse, and hearing their story just gave me this incredible insight into my own experience. It's given me a voice. I was finally able to share my story and feel so incredibly understood. And it also made me realize that even though all our stories are so unique and so diverse, because we are so different, right? And your experience is unique to you, like there's nobody else like you. And you've seen suffering. You know what that's like. And yet, there's so many struggles, so many challenges, so many epiphanies, so many joys that we share in common, especially those of us like you and me who've been through it, who've been through the suffering, who've been through the struggle, because we know what that's like. That's what brings us together. And that's such a powerful thing, because it means that we are not alone. We are in this, like in this life, in this world, in this community. We are in this together. That's so powerful, isn't it? That just brings us back to reality of our own story, because that story for me of going through rape as a child, it's brought me into the awareness of how it's just impacted my life. How I wasn't, able to love or be in relationships because I couldn't have sex, I realized how all of my, anxiety and depression that, I've been living with for so many, seasons of my life have just, like, where it all came from. Because it all comes from the trauma, like all of these, or so many of our mental health struggles, that's where they're from. And I know it seems so obvious when I said it, but I never really connected any of those experiences together. Because you don't think about it. Because in trauma, that's oftentimes, we want to do everything that we can not to even, remember it. Sometimes that's what our brain does through disassociation. It just switches those things off in a way of protecting itself. So we are survivors. Let's be real clear about that. We are survivors of trauma. We are survivors of horrific things, of difficult experiences. You survived. And that means that you are strong, that you are capable, that you are resilient, even though it was tough. Even if you, maybe at times, you lost hope. Maybe at times you didn't know what to do with yourself. And yet you found the bravery and the strength and the courage to sometimes stand your ground, to keep going. And I just champion you for doing that, for looking after what's right for you, because sometimes that's the only thing you can do, isn't it? Sometimes you don't even know what you're doing. You're just trying to get by. That's what life is often like when you're dealing with trauma. And the path towards healing, I really believe, is part of really getting out your story of truth. Your story not only of the traumatic experience, but also of the times when you showed up at your best, of giving, of loving, of being there with compassion, of living life that is in line with who you are and your values, feeling alive, aspiring towards feeling good about yourself, feeling happy, right? Isn't that what life is about at the end of the day? It's about feeling happy. It's about feeling who you really are and finding your story that includes the ups and downs and the twists and the turns, right? That's so vital, because having that clarity over your story of truth, how that comes up from the time day you were born to the future that we don't know what that's even gonna look like. That's so crucial. And why was I telling about these stories? I'm looking from life from a different perspective and finding ways to reflect on your life and get that story, your own story, your truth out there in a meaningful way. And we can do that through so many ways. It doesn't have to be anything to do with playback theater, but it can be through sharing your story with yourself, through journaling, through speaking it out loud, through therapy. When you find a good therapist, that's a great thing. I know, meeting my therapist and making sure that this is the person I can really connect with deeply. It's such a beautiful thing because, again, you feel heard, you feel understood, you feel like the person is on your side, bringing out your truth and is helping you heal. Sharing your story through art, expressing it in some way. Maybe it has nothing to do with sharing your story of trauma, but maybe sharing your truth, your voice, your feelings, your thoughts. Because listen, at the core of every story, and why, right? When I want to go back to theater and playback theater, because you're as an audience member, even if it's not your story up on stage, you're there and you listen and you're part of it. Why? Because we have so much in common and because we want to be heard. Deep inside, we want to be seen. We want to hear other people's stories. We want to be seen and relate that to our own experience. Because if this person over there has struggled, and maybe still struggling today, but they still keep going, they still keep showing up, they still keep doing their best, that means that's kind of inspiring. That means that maybe I could do that too. That's the essence of everything that I'm doing in creating my community with Power to Be Happy. With my book, with my speaking, is about being in a space with people who get your truth, who are seeking their own truth and seeking to just live it, share it, express it. That's what we're all about. Sharing our truth and finding ways to express yourself to your fullest. That is a critical thing that we want to do. And finding ways, whether that's through journaling, whether that's through, talking to your loved one, or talking to like someone who, your doctor or therapist, or whoever that might be, finding ways to share your story is what helps us understand ourselves and puts us on the path towards healing. And sometimes what comes up is resistance, right? There's always going to be that. Resistance is a huge part of expressing, whether that's our story of trauma, whether that's expressing your true thoughts, feelings, hopes, dreams, ideas, desires, right? We're always going to feel the push and the pull, right? The push is the desire to be seen, the desire to be heard, the desire to find someone who's going to be the witness to your experience, your true self, your true story, putting it out there in whatever way is meaningful for you. We're going to have that. There's always that push that we don't want to hold back, but there's always going to experience that pull, right? That desire to almost pull back, right? That the pull of fear of getting hurt, the pull of fear and worry about getting judged. And The truth is, gotta be open with that possibility. That people are gonna judge you, that sharing your truth sometimes is difficult, but necessary. I remember talking about my going through rape for the time and describing it to another survivor. I remember I felt all of this. There's just so much pain and shame. It was like all of this was just like kind of oozing out of me, It was just like, it was hard. It was like physically hard, right? It was difficult. And yet, also so incredibly liberating. And sometimes we have to dance with this push of our truth and the pull of the fear and the worry. And that's part of it. That's part of it. And I think when we have that resistance and when that comes up, I think the question you might ask yourself is, what is helping me heal? Is it trying to get my truth out in some way? Or is it holding it back? And these are the sometimes difficult choices that we make for ourselves on a journey towards healing. My name is Joe Bakhmutsky, and I believe that we all within us have this power to be happy, to seek greater clarity in everything that we do, including our truth, our experience, what we feel, what we want to share, what we need to get out of ourselves. But we all have this urge to show up at our best each day so that you're enough. You have irrefutable evidence that you're enough, because if you're at your best, maybe other people don't even notice it, maybe other people think it's a waste of space, but it's your best and you feel enough because you've done what you can. That's crucial. But also, holding on to that hope. I should know because I wrote a book about hope. Holding on to hope. That no matter what happens out there, because there's many twists and turns in life, but the truth is, things can and do change for the better. My name is Joe Bakhmutsky. I honor your experience, where you've been in the past, and where you're going. Hope to see you on my podcast next time on powertobehappy.com. That's powertobehappy.com. Thank you for being here.